Hello and welcome to our nightly news. These are the headlines. President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune receives the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of the French Republic, Jean-Noël Barrot, and discussions focused on France's will to overcome tensions. President of the Republic receives Islamic Development Bank Group President Dr. Mohammed Suleiman Al-Jasser. The bank's role in Algeria's economic growth was highlighted. President of the Republic dismisses Ali Bouguerra as governor of Adrar and appoints Secretary General to oversee province affairs. Minister of State Ahmed Attaf meets UN personal envoy to Western Sahara. Algeria's support for UN-led political settlement efforts was reaffirmed. And social unrest escalates in Morocco amid rising prices, miserable conditions, and controversial normalization with the Zionist entity. Sonatrach, Sonalgas and Baker Hills agreed on diversification of production to enter African markets, highlights Algerian innovation in oil processing and monitoring systems. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received on Sunday the Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of the French Republic, Jean-Noël Barrot, and the accompanying delegation. The audience took place in the presence of the Principal Private Secretary to the President of the Republic, Boualem, the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, National Committee Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, and the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Lounas Maghraman. The French Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs, Jean-Noël Barrot, stated that both countries are ready to open a new chapter, move past recent tensions, and rebuild a calm and balanced partnership based on equality.
Mesdames et messieurs, je remercie de son invitation le président
I thank President Tebboune for his invitation. I spoke with him at length in the presence of my colleague, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, with whom I had a very useful meeting this morning. I wanted to honor this invitation as soon as possible, less than a week after the phone call between President Macron and President Tebboune and their joint communication. We have experienced a period of unprecedented tension in recent months that does not serve the interest of Algerians or that of the French people. We certainly have differences, we cannot ignore them, but the historical and cultural human ties that unite us. And I am thinking in particular of the many Franco-Algerian families whose lives are shared on both sides of the Mediterranean. This must lead us to resume dialogue and re-establish cooperation. Our institutional relations must reach the level of the human relations between our two countries. I came to Algiers to deliver the message of the President of the Republic of France. France wishes to turn the page on current tensions to rebuild a serene and peaceful partnership of equals with Algeria. It wishes to rediscover the means of cooperation with Algeria in our mutual interest and to rediscover all means of cooperation in the interest of efficiency and results of our compatriots.
Et retrouver toutes les voies de la coopération dans un souci d'efficacité et de résultats pour nos compatriotes.
Jean-Noël Barrot has also affirmed the will of both countries to work for the immediate resumption of cooperation in all fields.
Avec le président Tebboune.
With President Tebboune and Minister Attaf, we have frankly put on the table all the issues that have concerned us in recent months in order to set out the principles laid down by the presidents during their meeting on March 31st and to regain the momentum and ambition set by the two heads of state in the Algiers Declaration of 2022. We have decided to do so with serious discretion and efficiency by reactivating, as of today, all the cooperation mechanisms in all sectors. We are returning to normal, and in the words of President Tebboune, the curtains rises. The curtains rises first on our cooperation in the field of security. Contacts between the intelligence services are resuming following a meeting of the highest security officials of our two countries. And this is now confirmed. Similarly, we will hold a strategic dialogue on the Sahel.
Des plus hauts responsables de la sécurité de nos deux pays est désormais actée. Et de même, nous aurons un dialogue stratégique sur le Sahel.
The French Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs reaffirmed the resumption of the judicial dialogue between Algeria and France, alongside cooperation in matters related to transport and migration.
In the field of judicial cooperation, I confirmed to President Tebboune the upcoming visit of the French Minister of Justice, Keeper of the Seals. It will be accompanied by a resumption of judicial dialogue between our two countries. We have many cooperation issues, particularly regarding the execution of letters regulatory on the sensitive case of assets I mentioned, but the Minister of Justice will have the opportunity to clarify the invitation by the services in charge of the National Financial Prosecutor's Office to their Algerian counterparts, from competent jurisdiction to travel to Paris to study all cases. In the field of mobility, the two presidents agreed to resume migration cooperation without delay, which was confirmed to me by President Tebboune. Regarding visa readmission, these issues will be addressed within the framework of existing agreement through the normal and fluid procedures of consular cooperation. President Tebboune indicated that he was in favor of an upcoming meeting between Algerian councils in France. We will organize it with the Algerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We agreed to work on the content of the agreements that govern our relationship in terms of mobility, migration, and to identify the necessary enhancements to make them more effective. Regarding economy, I had the opportunity to recall the difficulties that have arisen in recent months regarding the development of our trade, particularly in the agri-food, automotive, and maritime transport sectors. President Tebboune showed me of his willingness to give them new impetus. The president of the French Employers Association will receive his Algerian counterpart of CREA on May 9th, and we have agreed to hold a meeting of the Joint Franco-Algerian Economic Committee before the summer, which will allow us to address all these issues. As for memory, contacts have resumed between the French and Algerian historians of the Joint Committee. I personally ensured this, and President Tebboune confirmed to me that historian Benjamin Stora was invited to come to Algeria to continue work on the restitution of cultural objects. All of this will be monitored at my level and that of my counterpart. We have confirmed the resumption of dialogue between our two diplomats, and the general secretaries of our two ministries will meet in the coming days. Finally, I would like to have a word for our compatriot Boualem Sansal. I call for a gesture of humanity as President Macron did with President Tebboune, given his age and state of health. The conclusion of this visit is a shared desire to raise the curtain and enter a new phase of our relationship, a relationship of equals between France and Algeria for the mutual benefit of our two countries and our two peoples. This is the purpose of my presence today.
Une relation d'égal à égal entre la France et l'Algérie au bénéfice mutuel de nos deux pays et de nos deux peuples. C'est l'objectif de ma présence aujourd'hui. Je vous remercie.
And the French Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs, Jean-Noël Barrot, has held expanded talks with the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the National Committee of Rwanda and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf. The President of the Republic has also received on Sunday Dr. Mohammed Suleiman Al-Jasser, head of the Islamic Development Bank Group, and the accompanying delegation. The audience took place in the presence of the Principal Private Secretary to the President of the Republic, Boualem Boualem, and the Finance Minister, Abdelkrim Bouzid. After being received by the President of the Republic, the head of the Islamic Development Bank Group reaffirmed the will to contribute in short and medium-term development programs in Algeria.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين.
First of all, I would like to extend my deepest thanks to His Excellency, the President of the Republic, for his valuable time spent with me and my colleagues from the Islamic Development Bank, and for the useful explanation he gave us about the economic developments in our beloved Algeria. It has brought joy to my heart the determination which His Excellency has graciously presented the medium and long-term programs for economic development in Algeria. Why? Because we are in the field of development, and Algeria is one of the founding countries countries of the Islamic Development Bank and a major supporter of the Islamic Development Bank. Therefore, we find it obligatory to be present in Algeria, and it is obligatory for us to do what we can to help accelerate the process of economic development that Algeria is undertaking. His Excellency also kindly informed me that with God's willing, he will open the annual meeting of the Islamic Development Bank, scheduled from May 19th to the 22nd. As you know, these annual meetings bring together 57 member states, represented by their ministers of finance, ministers of economy, and governors of central banks. They discuss the economic situation facing member states and plan to accelerate economic development in our countries. I'm here today and tomorrow in Algeria to salute His Excellency and meet with the governor, Professor Abdel Karim, governor of the Islamic Development Bank. He is, of course, the Minister of Finance, but for me, he is the governor of the Islamic Development Bank. I will discuss all the arrangements for the annual meetings so that they appear in a manner befitting a great country like Algeria, befitting the Islamic Development Bank, and help attract investment, with God's willing, to Algeria in the future. I am very happy with what I have seen, and I look forward to returning next May. And with God's willing, I will see the new achievements in various fields, including the railways, which His Excellency the President spoke to me about in detail. They are ambitious plans that predicts a bright future for this generous nation. My greetings to all my brothers and sisters in beloved Algeria, and I ask the Almighty to preserve Algeria for its people and to preserve its people to achieve the aspirations of this ambitious people.
تحياتي لكل أخوتي وأخواتي في الجزائر الحبيبة، وأرجو من العلي القدير إن شاء الله أن يحفظ الجزائر لأهلها وأن يحفظ أهلها وأن يوفق قادتها لتحقيق طموحات هذا الشعب الطموح. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
President of the Republic Abdel Tebboune has ended the duties of Ali Bouguera in his capacity as governor of Adrar. The Secretary General of the province, Rashid Sharid, has been assigned to manage its affairs on his behalf. On Sunday, the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs, National Committee Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, met with the United Nations personal envoy to Western Sahara, Staffan de Mistura, who is on a working visit to Algeria. This visit is part of de Mistura's regional tour in preparation for the briefing he will deliver to the UNSC on April 14th, focusing on the Western Sahara issue. The UN envoy has recently conducted similar visits, engaging with both parties to the conflict, the Kingdom of Morocco and the Polisario Front, as well as the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, which alongside Algeria is a monitoring party in the UN-led process. During the meeting, Minister Ahmed Attaf reiterated Algeria's unwavering support for the efforts of the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and his personal envoy Staffan de Mistura in reviving the political settlement process for the Western Sahara conflict. Attaf has also emphasized that this process should be based on the United Nations Charter and the principles of international legitimacy concerning decolonization. Attaf also expressed Algeria's firm belief that the only path to complete decolonization of Western Sahara lies in the resumption of direct and conditional negotiations between the Kingdom of Morocco and the Polisario Front in good faith to reach a political solution that guarantees the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination, as outlined in all relevant UN resolutions from both the Security Council and the General Assembly. And while the international community remains largely silent, the Sahrawi people continue to suffer systematic repression, exploitation and violations of their rights by the Moroccan occupier. Najhtaya reports.
In a clear violation of international law, the Mahsan persists its systematic repression and exploitation of the Sahrawi people, denying them their rights and plundering their resources. The Moroccan media disseminate a lot of fake news about Western Sahara. They blur the truth, hence our appeal to the international community and the United Nations to inquire about our fate. Sahrawi people have long been patient in the face of the lack of progress in the peace process. They have demonstrated to the world their steadfastness in the struggle for their liberation. The Rabat regime not only orchestrates the plundering of Western Sahara's natural resources, but also relentlessly humiliates unarmed civilians and targets human rights defenders. And recently, this exploitation was dealt a heavy blow with the annulment of all trade agreements with the European Union concerning Western Sahara's natural resources.
This land has been watered by lines of men with their blood. They have defended it. This is our land, and we will never abandon it. We demand the lifting of the blockade on Western Sahara. We call on the international community to declare it unacceptable, to guarantee the security of the Sahrawis, to protect them, and to guarantee their rights as provided in international texts and treaties.
The dignity of the rightful inhabitants of Africa's last colony is violated daily. Thus, the Sahrawi people keeps enduring a crime with multiple dimensions: colonial domination, brutal repression, and systematic plundering of resources.
Amid soaring prices and growing poverty, Morocco faces a surge of social unrest. Citizens speak out against repression, economic inequality, and a regime increasingly accused of handing the nation's future to foreign powers. Melissa Lila Balaman.
Social tension is mounting in Morocco. Public anger is rising against a backdrop of skyrocketing prices and deepening poverty. The sense of frustration is overwhelming, with thousands of testimonies revealing abusive practices, property seizures, denial of basic rights, and violations of human dignity. The Makhzen's authoritarian rule continues to thrive through injustice and unchecked power.
There is a blatant atmosphere of mistrust within the government. The government's actions make no sense. They ask us to pay housing taxes while their bulldozers are tearing our homes down.
Meanwhile, the ruling elite maintains control over the country's wealth, even going so far as to hand it over to the Zionist entity through disgraceful agreements firmly rejected by the people. The Zionist lobby is spreading chaos in the country. They destroyed Gaza in a ruthless war, but here your homes are being destroyed without any war. You are being colonized. I swear by God, Morocco is on its way to becoming the new Zionist entity. The Zionists are making it happen. The Zionist lobby will do whatever it wants in Morocco.
And in the latest developments from the occupied Palestinian territories, at least 40 Palestinians have been killed since this morning only, including 9 children and over 20 others injured, following strikes on buildings in northern and southern Gaza. The situation has been reported by our correspondent Wissam Bouzaid, taken up by Najat Tayar.
Over 17,000 young martyrs have been claimed, including newborns, and thousands more remain buried under the rubble, their fate uncertain, alongside countless others wounded or missing. The genocidal aggression on Gaza Strip continues, indiscriminately targeting all, with Palestinian children enduring the brunt of this bloody siege, caught in showers of explosives that target civilians. We heard the sound of a missile at dawn, stones and glass fell on us. We didn't know where to flee.
عدد الشهداء من الأطفال في غزة تقريبا 35%.
Children account for almost 35% of the martyrs in Gaza. There are nearly 14,000 of them.
Nearly 40,000 orphans are left to live in terror and despair, their childhood stolen by violence. They now sift through the rubble in search of family members or even fragments of memories. These children, along with an estimated 39,000 others wounded, many facing permanent disabilities, are the ongoing victims of an unrelenting nightmare. We left home, we only took 2 outfits for the winter. We don't have any money to buy clothes or what we need. Hunger now looms more severely than ever in Gaza as the Zionist entity tightens its merciless siege on both adults and children. The blockade extends even to the most basic of human needs, with food aid deliberately obstructed. The UNICEF has condemned this ongoing assault, calling the blockade a clear violation of international humanitarian law with catastrophic consequences, especially for children, including a sharp increase in mortality rates since the resumption of the genocide on March 18th. 15% of the enclave's malnutrition treatment centers have been forced to shut down. Meanwhile, 350 children have been registered as dependent, facing grave danger. The people of Gaza, particularly its youth, are enduring horrific suffering from hunger, thirst, and critical shortage of drinking water.
It's hard to find water. We're exhausted and the wait is long. I tried to fill cans at the truck, but there were too many of us and I couldn't. The quantities of water available are insufficient.
The children of Gaza, forced into adulthood far too soon, are heroes in their own right. Stripped of their most basic rights, they suffer simply for being Palestinians. Their resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship stands as a testament to their strength, even as the world watches in silence.
And an agreement was reached today between the Sonatrach and Sonalgas groups and their American partner Baker Hughes. The parties agreed to diversify production with the aim of entering the African market and supplying Sonatrach and Sonalgas industrial facilities with the necessary equipment. Misalila Balaman.
At one of Algesco's workshops, turbines and compressors are repaired and maintained, with Algerian engineers carrying out highly technical and precise tasks to ensure the continuous operation of the country's energy infrastructure.
Algesco maintains turbines and compressors for Sonatrach and Sonalgas. We use them to generate electricity and for mechanical loads to compress gas in the south. Its expertise is on par with global standards or qualifications found in other countries. Sonatrach and Sonalgas have a very large fleet of gas turbines that require constant maintenance to ensure continuous production, and Algesco plays a full role in that.
Algesco, a joint venture between Sonatrach, Sonalgas and US company Baker Hughes, currently covers over 80% of the national market. Its goal now to expand into international markets.
درسنا مخطط تطوير هذه الشركة لكي نخرج من الجزائر ونعطيها بعد دولي.
We've studied the company's development plan to move beyond Algeria and give it an international dimension. It's already operating regionally with projects in Tunisia and Egypt and soon across Africa. The goal is also to carry out complete maintenance operations here in Algeria and eventually manufacture spare parts and even turbines locally.
عملية الصيانة كاملة هنا في الجزائر.
This meeting is a direct result of the President of the Republic's instructions, who called on Sonalgas and Sonatrach to enter the African market. Today, we've reached an agreement with US company Baker Hughes to diversify production at this plant. We've agreed to manufacture mid-capacity gas turbines ranging from 20 to 30 to 50 megawatts, equipment in high demand across Africa.
I'm very pleased to be among our partners at Sonatrach and Sonalgas, which is of a great importance. Our company Baker Hughes is committed to enhancing cooperation and the investment plans we need to undertake to move forward with our joint project and expand from Algeria to the world.
Efforts that support the goal of national integration and reducing imports in a field where Algeria is asserting its capabilities and strengthening its position.
A new Algérie route connecting Algiers to Abuja, Nigeria was launched today at Ouari Boumediene Airport. The first flight ceremony was attended by officials from the Ministry of Transport and the Nigerian Embassy. And the direct route will operate weekly with flights from Algiers to Abuja every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. continuing to Cameroon. And return flights from Abuja to Algiers are scheduled for Fridays at 3:30 a.m.
The launching of this new airline represents an exceptional opportunity to reinforce the ties between the two countries in all sectors, namely in tourism, trade and economy. An extension of the line towards Douala in Cameroon is planned, which will facilitate the displacement of our Nigerian brothers towards Algeria and vice versa. It's an exceptional opportunity. Thanks to the new line, cooperation between Nigeria and Algeria will be reinforced in several sectors, which will contribute in the consolidation of relations between the two countries.
And in a meeting that brought together various civil society actors, from Hassan Masoud, the president of the National Observatory for Civil Society, Ibtisam Hamlawi, listened to the concerns of associations, activists and youth regarding their aspirations and prospects. In order to promote better communication and interaction with civil society, the National Observatory has launched a digital platform that would facilitate continuous communication, allowing civil society actors across the country to share their concerns, activities and exchange experiences. Algeria is making its voice heard on the international stage, submitting an official application to UNESCO to recognize the art of enameled silver jewelry from Kabylie as intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This move highlights not just recognition, but the preservation of memory, identity and craftsmanship, as each piece tells a story and preserves tradition. That was it for today's news. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.